presented by Private Internet Access.
Welcome back to We're All Satoshi. It is the end of October 2017. I am Satoshi Nakamoto, and our guest today is Satoshi Nakamoto.
Hi.
Welcome to the couch, Moritz Bierling from Neufund.
Yes.
How did you get into crypto?
Well, I began a kind of a research effort when I was studying in university. And I wanted to learn about economics, politics, philosophy, these kind of things. I was studying at the time in Bavaria in the program Philosophy and Economics, and I was not satisfied with what I was learning in the university itself. I had gone into some of the more counter-establishment theories from Nassim Taleb especially. I read his book Antifragility or Antifragile, and the ideas that expressed kind of led me down this path of wanting to find out how systems work, how they become resilient and even anti-fragile. And when I did my own research in the blogosphere specifically, I came across weird anarchistic blogs and kind of counter-economics theories, agorism, all these kind of different ideas that I would never encounter in normal university. And so one of those blogs, I believe, was the Dollar Vigilante.
Right, Jeff Berwick.
Yes, exactly, where I first heard about Bitcoin, I believe. I'm not exactly sure anymore. Because it was at the same time also that I learned of Exosphere, this company that I ended up working for more than 2 years.
Cool.
And this was all the same time. And so it became this effort of learning about everything that has to do with society and how it works, and to formulate my own path into that direction. And so I actually dropped out of university for the values that I found in Antifragility, because I really liked the values that Taleb was talking about in there. He said something about that people who are only learning through theory, not through praxis, necessarily don't understand what they're talking about, because they don't learn out of actually engaging with the subject matter and just have these models, building models upon models, and introduce errors and not understand that models are just models. They never map totally to reality. Yeah,
a project manager I talked to and had the pleasure of working for had the motto, boxes on a whiteboard don't crash.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of saw myself going down this fragilista path of becoming somebody who is maybe at the top of society in some fashion after going through this elite study program, being a journalist or a consultant or some kind of politician or whatever, something like that, or even an academician. And I didn't really like that. I didn't want to become somebody who has no skin in the game when they make decisions that impact a large amount of people and they don't have anything to lose from that. And so I kind of made a value judgment and said, okay, I'm going to stop studying this program. Of course, I could have gone down that path and maybe done some other things with that thing in mind, but I dropped out and said, okay, I want to learn from praxis, and I kind of went through a period of not knowing what to do, like it's usual with young kids. You don't know what to do when you're young, and so, but I had this mind, okay, I want to learn something from the practical reality, and so I enrolled in a dual study program where you learn business by working in a company.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
And at the same time also studying. So it's quite unique, I think, to the German language sphere. But you work and you study, and at the end of it, you have 3 years of work experience and 3 years of a study degree. So it's a very nice model, and kind of that.
Sounds like it,
yeah, exactly, and that led me down this path of learning through actually doing stuff through action, and then the logical conclusion to that came when I dropped even out of that study program after 10 months. I held out a bit longer. To go to Chile to participate in a entrepreneurship bootcamp.
And was this blockchain related?
It was not, although we did have some blockchain related workshops in it. This was from Exosphere, this alternative education company. And I went there for those 2 months, participated in the workshop. And at the end of it, I decided to stay there and work with them. And so for the next 2 years, I went through this kind of entrepreneurial path of having very little resources to work with, trying to get people to come to programs and these kind of things. And then I actually, in the end, did end up doing something blockchain related, introducing the world's first Ethereum developer training program into the company, where we brought people from all over the world to Chile to learn how to code Solidity. And so
that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I got into the professional crypto sphere. And then when I left Exosphere early this year and came back to Germany for several reasons, I decided, okay, why not look for stuff in this, for jobs in this kind of a sphere, and I had a very easy time getting into it. So that's kind of how I ended up there. Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in Berlin in the cryptosphere right now, isn't there?
Yes. I'm surprised myself that there's lots of people here, not only Germans, but from Britain, some leaving Brexit, or leaving because of Brexit, some not, just because they think Berlin is even better than London in that respect. There's BigchainDB here, there's Gnosis, there's Ethereum even had one of their very first DevCons here. So it's definitely one of those kind of epicenters of the blockchain world. Yeah.
So you came in through Ethereum. You didn't come in through Bitcoin. That's kind of unique
in the professional sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're teaching people to code Solidity. What is that like?
Well, I only was kind of the organizing force of that program. I didn't actually teach anybody coding because I'm not a programmer. But yeah, it was curious because back then it was still a very fluid, dynamic environment with the language not even having set down many standards yet. So trying to teach somebody a language that is still very much evolving and not even set in stone was very, very curious. So you had to more rely on helping people understand the fundamental architectural differences of blockchain technology versus other database technology, and kind of getting them to think in those ways rather than actually code very many programs that way. So, and again, also another problem was there were not many teachers, let alone programmers. So we had to hire somebody who had no teaching experience and little programming experience in Solidity because it was only a year old or so. And so all of those problems kind of made it difficult to get something going, but we kind of tried to make it cohere around this core of understanding how blockchain works from the theoretical stance, and then getting very practical and just trying to implement ideas that you have in a lot of iterations.
Cool. And now you're with Neufund, or Neufund.
Yeah.
As in, do you pronounce it in German, English, or...
It's kind of a portmanteau of German and English, exactly.
A little bit, you're pronouncing it a little bit the way it happens to come out.
Right.
So Neufund, which is building on top of Solidity even more, right? And so you're aiming for the big picture here.
Yes. So we're building on the Ethereum platform. The main reason is just that it's already being adopted. There's lots of developers in the space, or at least a growing number of developers, still not very many. And so you have the highest likelihood of it being supported in the future. And Bitcoin doesn't offer the smart contract capabilities yet, although Rootstock might change that.
There's talk of it being Turing complete, but there's also the way you can theoretically get to China on a bicycle.
Right. Yeah, so we're building on Ethereum, but just for the convenience, I guess. We're building a platform on top of it that takes the smart contracts and makes them human interfaceable, I would say. I mean, that's really the biggest value add beyond the technical and legal innovations that we're bringing to the table, is making it accessible to people who are used to banking apps, for example, who are not used to interacting with blockchain, right? And that applies to the large amount, the largest amount of people in the world. So if you can kind of take them where they are and lead them down this path slowly with educational material, with familiar interfaces, then you can bring more and more people onto the blockchain ecosystem through Ethereum, and thus enlarge the overall space of possibilities.
Awesome. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that in the next step.